Hi, I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Justy, and
and together
together
we're
we're losing
losing
it.
it. We've each lost over 100 pounds with the help of diet, exercise, and breaking bad habits. And I also had weight loss surgery in 2020.
And I recently had skin removal surgery.
We're just sharing our journey and what we've learned throughout the process.
And we're not doctors, so if you have any medical questions, reach out to your doctor.
Welcome back, friends. We're here after a little hiatus. we've been busy ladies, so Justy and I have left you all for a bit, but we're back. And not only are we back, but we're going to close the gap on a topic that we've talked about kind of 2 episodes. And we've been promising a third episode on motivation. Um, and so this one's going to be like the part 3, and it's going to sort of finish it up. Um, and in part 3, I'll give you a little teaser for 2 parts to it. We're going to talk about your thoughts. And so your thoughts that turn to feelings that become an action that become a habit. And then celebrating your wins because both of those are huge. So
Mhm.
we're going to kick off, I guess, the thoughts section of it. We're going to do this a little bit differently than I think how we've done some of these in the past. There'll still be a lot of conversation between the two of us, but I'm going to kind of, I guess, pivot some questions to Justy and then let Justy kind of answer them because this is something that the two of us have talked a lot about. And so
Mhm.
when we talk about like thought reframe, um, there's kind of a process. So we're going to go through the questions that like how we would process it.
Mhm.
All right, you ready, Justy?
I'm
Ready for
ready.
your questions? Okay.
I
So
am.
as far as a thought reframe goes, because we are in a place where if we I guess I should backtrack some. If piggybacking off of the first two kind of episodes that we did, it's just like knowing that motivation isn't a feeling at all.
Mhm.
Okay, we've
Yep.
determined that a few episodes ago. Knowing that it's not a feeling and what was the second part? Why am I drawing a blank? Help me out.
Having your why,
Having your why has to be
right?
strong. So that was a big
Mhm.
one. So it's not a feeling, finding your why. Oh, here we go. And then identifying where you struggle. So those are
Mhm.
like the big pieces to it. And then understanding your most, like what it is that you want most. So we
Mhm.
put all of that behind us. And now we're going to talk about our thoughts because the thoughts are pretty important because that's what creeps in our head all day long. It's all these little shitty thoughts. Most of the time they're shitty. At least for me, they are anyway. When I get stuck in a rut. So if we're trying to reframe our thoughts, the first question that we would ask ourselves, and Justy, I'll let you kind of elaborate more on this, is what can you think instead? So like, what are some
Yeah.
instead thoughts?
So I guess, like you had said, the important part is we've already done some of the work. So we've already found out what our why is. So then we have that strong why going into it. And then we've also identified where we struggle. And when we identified where we struggled, we already have like an arsenal of like all the little whys and what our future self, who we want our future self to be. So when you are in those moments and you have those thoughts of, like the other day, I was feeling a little premenstrual, and I was having cravings. And again, it was a Friday night and I'm sitting home alone. So I had some emotions pop up. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to like eat whatever. Or I'm going to go get a piece of chocolate cake from the Publix or whatever, even though I have bakeries, which is really weird. So,
And their food is way
so
better than Publix chocolate cake. So
right.
that's that.
So what, but that's not as shameful. So, but what I did instead is I said, you know what, Jesse, you're not, because you're not a person who does that anymore. And you already told yourself that you are going to, when you're lonely on a Friday night, you're going to call a friend. Or when you are having a sweet craving, you're going to have a tea, put a little honey in it. So I just told myself, like, no, you're not going to do this. And so by me saying, taking that feeling of me being deprived or me being sad or me being lonely, just by me changing my thought of, hey, I can do this. I've done it before. I've worked through cravings before. We all know that me going to get a piece of chocolate cake isn't going to make me less lonely, right? All of this stuff. So I kind of had this arsenal of stuff in my head that I talked to myself about. And then that feeling of like desperation or that feeling of loneliness or sadness and those cravings kind of turned to feeling of confidence. Like, yeah, I can do this. Like, I can do this. And so once I kind of switched that in my head to, yes, I can do this. And this is how I'm going to feel when I do this. And this is how I'm going to feel tomorrow when I wake up, knowing I didn't eat that chocolate cake. Then I felt empowered. And then I was able to make that decision. And the action following that was me not eating the cake. And then if you do that enough, then that becomes a habit. It becomes a habit of you talking yourself out of that initial, you just got to stop yourself and that initial thought and just be like, we have all this work we've done, all this stuff that we have, all of our whys, all of what we want most, all of the times we've done it before and promised ourselves we're not going to. Now is the time to like just do it.
Right. So that is, you just listed a whole bunch of insteads. I'm going to call a friend instead, right? I mean,
Right.
that's all great tools for people to put in their arsenal. All the things you can do instead. You could go for a walk. You could take a sip of water. You could,
Mm-hmm.
anything, almost anything
Mm-hmm.
that you could just pick up and do or think about or just reframing. So you listed a bunch of insteads and you even got into the next question, which is how will that make you feel? Because if you think about how's that chocolate cake going to make me feel, and it's funny because I was just listening to another podcast today. I was listening to Berry Nation podcast, and ironically, they talked a little bit about how eating some certain things made them feel. And Jason had mentioned how when he ate, burgers are his thing, and when he ate a burger, how he like they were always his thing, his like go to. And he ate a burger, and he said he knows that it makes him feel like crap. The beef
Mm-hmm.
burger makes him feel like crap. And he said, I think he was like scraping the pan out. And as he was scraping it, because you know what that's like, how the burger gets all like the crusty, funky stuff in there. Imagine we're restaurant people, so we've seen how the grill looks.
Right.
He's like, and all I could think of is that's what it looks like in my stomach. And I was like, oh,
No.
you're right. And that's how you
Yeah.
feel because it's kind of sludgy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about how will that make you feel, so
Mm-hmm.
eating that, like maybe whether it be like a trigger food or something that's not going to nourish your body the way that you want it to, like a chocolate cake or whatever, when you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, because chocolate cake, sure, it's somebody's birthday, you have a small slice, you're celebrating, but chocolate cake out of loneliness is different. And you know that
Mm-hmm.
it's going to make you feel like crap. And so that's that. How's that going to make you feel? And it automatically made me think of Jason's story about looking at the scrapings and thinking that's what's in my stomach. And he was like, never again. If I eat a burger, it'll just be like a turkey burger or something that doesn't sit as heavy and weigh you down like that.
Well, and like the chocolate cake. So had I eaten the chocolate cake, physically, I would have felt kind of gross because it was at night and it's just all sugar, right? In my mouth for that, let's talk about that. For in my mouth for that like 3 minutes that it actually takes for you to consume a chocolate cake, it would have been fucking amazing,
If
right?
it was amazing, maybe
If
it
it
was
was,
dry
yeah,
and then
because
maybe
a
it's
lot of
not what you
times,
wanted. A
yeah,
lot of times it's
exactly.
not what you wanted. You're just chasing that
Hmm.
dopamine hit and it's not
Right.
it.
So it would have been delicious. I'm just going to pretend it would have been
Okay.
delicious, but for 3 minutes. So, but then for the next 3 hours, I would have felt like crap physically in my stomach. And then also, I would have felt defeated. I would have felt like I'm worthless or I can't stick to it or I just would have started beating myself up. But because I didn't eat the cake, I was going to bed physically feeling better because I think I had some smooth move tea. So I went to bed physically feeling better. And I didn't have that guilt. I didn't have that self, you know, beating myself up that I would have had going to bed that night. I had an empowered feeling and I had a feeling of, yes, bitch, you did this. And you're going to wake up and go to the gym tomorrow and you're going to feel great because you're going to, well, you had smooth move tea, so you're going to have a great morning. And then you're not going to feel sluggish from that chocolate cake because honestly, I probably would have had a glass of milk too.
Yeah.
And the lactose, always isn't very good for my tummy. So it was kind of like, just stopping and hesitating in those moments, pausing, and then just really justifying it to yourself. Now, at the end of the day, If you go through all that and you still eat the chocolate cake, let it go.
Right.
It is what it is, right? Just
Yeah,
let it go.
you've already done it. So
Yeah,
that's the choice that you made.
right,
And there's no point in beating yourself up over it because sometimes your choice is going to be the chocolate cake.
right. Yeah,
But the
and that's
point,
okay.
the yeah, and the point of us going through this is to help you to navigate for the choice
Mhm.
to not be the chocolate cake. And if it is, it is. And it's
Because
okay.
what you're going to get is you're going to get a better feeling out of conquering your urges and conquering your emotional eating than you are from
Mhm.
the actual giving into the urges and the emotional eat.
Yeah.
Sometimes that feeling of conquering it is better, and sometimes it's honestly not. Sometimes you're like, but I really want the chocolate cake. But it's okay, right? But as long as you're doing that work and stopping and pausing and talking to yourself and really making the decision out of your brain instead of out of your emotion or what have you, then you've done 100 times better than you've been doing in the past, if you're anything
Yeah.
like me.
Yeah, because in the past we would have just ate it. It would not have been, there would have been no pause, there would have been no
Right,
thought, there would have been
right,
no nothing, there would have been no conversation. It would have been like chocolate
right,
cake, yeah, I think I will. And you would
right.
just go and fucking get it
And then
and
it
eat the
it would,
whole thing and the glass of milk. Yeah.
right. And it would have rolled in tomorrow morning. Well, let me go get some biscuits and gravy for breakfast because I already fucked up last night. And
Right.
it would have rolled into lunch with, hey, let me get a burger. And it would have rolled into dinner with, let me have a 6 pack of Modelo and a pizza.
Right.
And I'll start over on Monday.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Monday.
So now
Monday.
I
Always go to
consumed
Monday.
3 days worth of food that is more calories than I should consume in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Just
That's
because
the
I
all or
didn't.
nothing. That's our all or nothing
Mhm.
mindset. And it's a
Right.
hard one to shake.
Uh-huh. It's very hard to shake. And like last night I went to dinner with a friend and but I had planned dinner. So that's what I do. For me, I plan what I'm doing. I didn't plan what I was going to eat, but I had a burger with a jalapeno jam and tater tots and a Miller Lite, which is like a great meal. I ate it all. I was kind of full. I should have probably stopped like, a few bites. I should have eaten half the tater tots and a few bites left in my burger, but I didn't. But that's okay. That doesn't mean today I have to keep it up, right?
Right.
So it's really empowering when you can get to that point where you can go out and have a burger as someone who is, morbidly obese and have lost weight. And you can go out and have a burger and then you're just okay with it and you don't beat yourself up. And you're just
Yeah.
like, you go back into your normal routine. In the morning, I had some eggs and did my yoga this morning and went on with my life.
Yeah, I today, and speaking of an empowering feeling, and I did have had the amount of conversations that we have with ourselves is unreal.
It's
But
unreal.
I went to Chick-fil-A only because it was Chelsea's field day today, and I was out there watching her field day, and then I helped scoop like water ice for them, and I kind of wanted some water ice, and I was like, "No, this isn't for you. I could have had some if I wanted to, but it's like it's
Mhm.
just sugar, like, then you're good." And I knew that I was going to stop at Chick-fil-A on the way back because I had one other stop to make, and I wasn't going to make it home. And like by that point, I was hungry, and I was like, Chick-fil-A is probably the like healthiest fast food that you can get. And then I was like, but I don't want grilled nuggets. So I had the whole conversation with myself. Like, I just wasn't in the mood for grilled nuggets because all I literally eat here and what I have for like meal prep stuff is like grilled chicken, grilled chicken, grilled chicken. I was like, I kind of want like regular ass fried nuggets.
Mhm.
So I got the meal, the 8 nuggets, which actually they're not that bad for you. Yes, they're fried, but they're honestly, it's so lightly breaded, they're not that bad for you. So I got the nuggets. I ate those before I even touched the fries, and I had like maybe 3 fries, and I
Ugh.
was like, "We're done. We're done here." And I just put them in the bag and threw the rest of it away. And I was like, huh, "Look at that. Look at me."
Good job. Good
Yeah,
job.
but I was like,
And,
I wanted the fries, but I didn't want all. I knew I couldn't eat all the fries, so I
mhm.
had a few and then called it a day.
Well, and it's funny because our mindset also goes into other areas of our life. And so this has really helped me be able to manage my weight and talk myself out of urges. Has really helped me too with like my purse addiction. So I was in Rock Hill today and I always stop at the TJ Maxx in Rock Hill because I don't get down there all the time. And TJ Maxx, they got some good stuff going on. So there was this really cute purse that I saw at Free People like a few months ago. And it wasn't the bright red one, it was a green one. It was like really cute purse. And it was only like $39. At Free People was like 135. So I'm like, oh, well, you have to get it because it's a great deal. But then I'm like, I have 5 other purses that color. You know what I mean? And so then I stopped. No, let's stop. Like, do you actually need it? This and that. Yeah, it's a good deal, but it's the same thing as food. It's like, yeah, I have more food, but do I need to eat it? Yeah, I'm
Right.
at a party, but do I need to indulge? Like, no, you don't. And listen, I walked out of TJ Maxx with nothing. I didn't buy anything.
That's big for you.
That's
I've been to TJ Maxx with you,
yes.
and neither
Yes.
of us walked out with nothing.
No, and it's hard. It's for me, it's the same thing with food. Like we were around food all the time. It was always there.
Yeah.
And I will say that I am extremely blessed that I don't have financial issues. I'm pretty good financially. And so I have like money that I can just spend. And so it's like, but I have to stop myself because you cannot live a life of just indulging in everything
Indulge,
you want.
indulge, indulge.
And
Yeah.
so the weight loss has really taught me that too. And I don't know which one the weight loss came first. The purse thing came next. Same thing with men. Like I
Yeah.
just realized these patterns in my life where before I would have given into the urge of let me get attention from this man who doesn't deserve my time. And now I'm like, yeah, no, let me do the check. You're not good for me. I'm gonna walk away. Literally walk
Yeah.
away. Because
Right.
I did that the other day when the guy showed up and he said he was 6'2" and he was only 5'8".
That's
I was like,
weird.
sir, I thought you would be taller. And he was like, what do you mean? I'm 6'2". I'm like, no, you're not. Because I'm 5'10".
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I am. I literally turned around and walked away and went back to my Jeep and went home.
Right. Because I mean, and
I
obviously
don't have time for that.
not that you would have really cared if he was truly 5'8", but it's the
No,
fact that
but
you're
don't
like
lie about it.
acting on it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Like
So my
fair enough,
mindset,
because you know how tall you are and
I
you
know
haven't
how tall
shrunk
I
several
am.
inches. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and he was shorter than me. So anyway, but that's the same mindset though, is around food, around spending money, around attention from men, and it's crazy how it's all come together to make me just a much stronger person with way higher standards and not seeking outside of myself for happiness, validation, comfort. I give it to
Right.
myself. And
Right.
so I think that's been just a really kind of cool evolution of Justy.
Well, and I think that really pivots into the next question. You're really good at this. It's almost like you wrote this.
Right.
What what action will come from this feeling? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and that explains it perfectly. Like it's like okay, so you know how it makes you feel, so you're going to choose what the better feeling is. So you chose instead of the chocolate cake, you chose the smooth tea, which
Right.
is going to give you your body, your being, your everything a better feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then so the action that comes from that is just your learned behavior. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing. Your learned behavior over time of like making these better choices. When you repetitively make these better choices, you are just setting yourself up for every area of your life to make better
Mm-hmm.
choices. So it came from weight loss, and
Right.
it has spilled over into other areas of your life where
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, okay, if I'm strong enough to make that choice over a piece of chocolate cake, which I would love, then I'm strong enough to make the choice in other places too. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think that answers that. What actions will come from that feeling? So it sounds
And
like
it,
there's a ton of
it just
actions.
gets easier over time. Like it's not easy. It's still not easy. It's still a conversation.
Right.
Right? Like you said, we have so many conversations with ourselves, but it's still a conversation. And when I chose to not go and put my pants on and go get some cake and make some tea, that was so much easier than it was 3 years ago. Right. And it's so less often that I don't make that choice than it was 3 years ago. The same
Right.
thing with not walking out of the TJ Maxx today. It was like, well, I don't need it. Let me just go. And I went and it was okay. The same thing with walking away from Jackass. I could have been like, hey, let me get a free meal out of it. But this fucker just saved me a bunch of calories and probably a couple drinks I didn't need to have. You know what I mean? So that was the best decision. And it was just such an easy decision for me to make.
Yeah.
When before I would have been thinking about like not hurting his feelings or whatever. And I'm just like, hell no. I'm gonna
Right.
I'm gonna
This
go.
isn't, it's not starting out well. It's not going to
Right.
end
Yeah.
well either. Yeah, we may as well
Right.
cut our losses here in some
Right.
drastic
Yeah.
fashion.
And kind of the same thing. Like the other day I was I think I'd made an Instagram post. I'd ordered a pizza and that I changed my mind that I didn't want it. But then it was already on its way. Like Uber Eats was bringing it no matter what. And so I just, I said, okay, well, that decision wasn't the best, but I can turn this around. So I did have a piece of pizza, but I didn't have the whole pizza. You know what I mean? I did go to bed feeling with a little bit of guilt, but then I switched that in my mind too. I said, listen, you did the best you could today, and you ate one piece of pizza instead of the whole pizza, and
And that's a win.
now you have lunch for tomorrow and the next day, and
Right.
you already know what you're going to eat. Like, you're setting yourself up. And so it was like, and then I just felt better about it because I was able to talk myself out of really going off the deep end. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep. And that's a
So that,
win because those conversations, as long as they eventually turn into wins, then you're headed in the right direction.
right.
Um, that reminds me also of, so when you have like cravings like that, so some different actions that can happen. So maybe it's like, I'm not gonna have the chocolate cake today, but if I'm still thinking about it in like 3 days, then I'm gonna put it on my plan. So that's very
Unemployment.
similar to what happened
Mhm.
with you when Miss Dolly came out with Krispy Kreme and made some donuts.
Yes.
And as soon as I saw it, I sent it to you, and I know I wasn't the only one that sent it to you, but I'm like, donuts, Krispy Kreme. And so you sat on that for several days,
Hmm.
and then finally pulled the trigger on getting them and made the choice, made the decision,
Hmm.
because the thing is, you can't sit in indecision forever, because that
Right.
is what weighs on you too. You have to, in the words of Laura Graybo, and I use her term so many times, like the Nike slogan says, just do it. Like, you just have to make a decision and commit to it. So you
Right.
finally were like, I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to commit to it, got the donuts. I don't know if you actually did taste each of them. You had a couple thoughts in your head. You're like, I think I'm going to taste each one of them and then give them away to the rest of like the staff or
I
whatever.
I did. So I actually knew I was having a meeting, like a leadership meeting, and so I went and got the donuts before that meeting, and then I cut like a sliver out of each one because there was four different flavors out of each one. And let me tell you, that peach cobbler one was delicious. So I cut a piece off of four of them, and I had that, and then I just gave the rest to the people at the meeting. I was just
Yeah.
like, here you go.
And so
Um,
that's an action that you took. Like, you
mhm.
took
Yeah.
action on this thought, like this thought of A, they're donuts, B, they're Dolly Parton
Right.
donuts, like, hello. And so it's like you made a decision. It was going to continue. It was just going to sit in the back of your mind if
Uh-huh.
you didn't do something with it. And I think you made a great, took great action, made a decision, and took the action that worked best for you. So you could taste them, but you didn't like face dive into the box.
Yeah, and I think that's really important as you're starting to learn how to, get motivated and be motivated and change your thoughts about stuff. It's like, now, I'm not even saying that chocolate cake is bad, right? Chocolate cake is delicious, and there is a time for chocolate cake. But chocolate cake on a Friday night when you're not hungry and you're feeling lonely and you're about to start your menstrual cycle is not the time to eat a whole ass piece of chocolate cake. If I want chocolate cake, I eat it. But like she said, if I crave something for like 3 or 4 days, I'll put it on my plan, and then I'll eat it in a controlled manner. And that's really just what we have to teach ourselves. And all these thoughts teach ourselves is to keep a promise to ourselves. And the more you break your promise to yourself, the more defeated you feel. The more
Right.
you keep your promise to yourself, the more empowered you feel. And the closer to your goals you get. So why not make that choice?
Right.
We
Yeah.
come up with all these excuses to make the choice that doesn't align with what we want most. We need to flip our brain to make all the excuses to actually align with what we want most, because you're not, like Corinne says, you're not going to die or get pregnant because you didn't have a piece of cake.
Right.
Like, like we make it so dramatic and this big thing in our heads, but it's just like not eating a piece of cake.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you're going to feel better when you don't eat the piece of cake.
It's so funny how some of the conversation mirrors the actual podcast I listened to today. They were saying how in one of the variation therapist led classes or sessions that the therapist said, the funny thing is eating is never an emergency. Not for us, not for obese people. It's not an emergency, but we make it so
Yes.
such a red flag emergency. Like, we are not going to starve.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying that there's people out there who don't, like, who legit aren't like looking for a meal, like haven't had a meal. That is out there, but that's not our case. That is not the
We're
case. There
yeah,
is no emergency here. We
no,
haven't missed a meal. Okay.
right,
So it is
right.
not an emergency. And it's like when you put it into perspective like that, because like you said, we tend to make it so dramatic. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
not that dramatic. It's not that serious. It's a
Mm-hmm.
piece of freaking cake. Like it's not that
Right,
serious. There's plenty of other
right.
things that you can do. Like,
And I've also learned that when I do have that like dramatic, oh my God, I have to have it feeling, it's usually not from hunger.
yeah,
That's a trigger for me. That's like a red flag, like, oh, hold on, like stop. You're being really dramatic. So let's bring it back here.
yeah.
Right now, would I eat a plate of broccoli? Nope.
Mhm.
Would
No,
I eat a piece of chocolate cake? Yes. So let's bring it back and kind of figure out why I'm wanting that piece of chocolate cake, and then flip my thoughts about it so that I can feel better and feel empowered and have the actions that'll go along with those feelings. And
right.
so, but it's a lot. And you know what kind of pisses me off sometimes though is not everybody's brain is like ours. And so,
They get
to
kind of
be
whiny. People get whiny.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
we're just like that's
Mhm.
where we're turned off. We're like,
Yeah.
you're whining right now.
Yeah, yeah. And but your brain can be like that. Like I didn't
Yeah.
become somebody who can fight my urges and just a really resilient person, because we both are, overnight. We
Right.
did it because we have conquered things over and over and jumped and jumped and jumped and jumped, and we just don't give up. And so even though we've had setbacks, but then also like I was a girl at work, she is not overweight, and I've never seen her eat ever. And I just was we had a meeting and I was like, I said, do you have any like food allergies or whatever, blah blah blah. She's like, no, I eat anything. And I said, well, I said, I've never actually seen you eat. And she's like, yeah, food's not that important. I'm like, I hate you.
Good for you.
I'm like, what is going on? What do you mean? I don't understand. Like, I feel like I should talk to her for like 5 hours to understand, because, like, to be morbidly obese like we were, there is not just a mindset, but there's a metabolic makeup. There is also like habits that we have developed, and the way that
Hormones
we were
and yeah, you
taught how to
name it.
eat. Like, it is this rainbow of stuff, right? And
Mhm.
so we have to peel it back, and it takes a long, long, long time to do that. So,
Yeah. And it just
uh-huh.
it's never it's honestly it's never ending. You can
Never
continue
ending.
feeling it, continue feeling. And it's
Yep.
almost like you just keep you're like it's like a cartoon where there's like holes and water shooting out of holes and you're plugging this hole,
Yes.
plugging that hole, and you're plugging then there's some down here and then there's some over here. I feel like
Yep.
that's what we're doing. It's like, okay, I'm getting my emotional eating under control. Now I have my period and
Right.
my hormones are kicking in. So you're plugging this hole, and then it's like, and now work is stressing me out, so let me plug the stress hole. It's like you're constantly
Mm-hmm.
just like fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. It's like the way that the mind of an obese person works is so different.
Uh-huh.
As if we didn't already think about food enough as an obese person, we're restaurant people. And I'll tell you what,
Right.
I tend to think that people become, I probably became a chef because of my love of eating more so than my love of food. Because there are some chefs out
Yeah.
there that are not obese,
Mm-hmm.
never have been obese, and they just have a love for the craft of cooking food. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
those of us who love to eat food.
Eat
So
the
we
food.
learn how to make it really delicious. And I am
Right.
the latter. So for
Yeah.
sure, as if I didn't already think about it enough, it's also my career. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
so then, we've talked about changing our thoughts and how that can help you make decisions that align with what you want most, and that feeling of accomplishment turns into more actions of accomplishment, which leads into habits. But along the way, as you're doing that, another thing that's really important is celebrating the little things. And
Right.
so
So before
I
we get
think,
into the celebration, let's touch a little bit more on this last question. What habits can you build from this action?
oh,
So I think we need to dive deeper into habits before we get to the
mhm,
celebrating the wins, because while it may be habit, a lot of it is habit to us. What do you
mhm,
think are some other habits? Like we have the habit of it's become a habit for you to move it to your plan for another day. Like similar
yep.
to that, what are some other habits that people can do who don't have an arsenal of habits built for themselves yet?
Yeah, like for me, I have a really good habit of planning my food every day. So I used to not think about what I was going to eat. I just ate on the fly and then ate what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted, how much I wanted. And now I really make a conscious effort to be like, okay, this is what I'm eating today. And I don't do it for a week usually or what have you. I've been doing buying meal prep lately because I'm really busy. So that's for me is just planning my food. Um, Whether or not I write it down or not, in my head, I plan it. Like I know what I'm eating today.
Mhm.
And then another habit that I have is like you said, is if I am craving something for multiple days or I'm really just wanting something for multiple days, I'll plan it and I will make sure that I satisfy that need, that craving, because that's part of life, right? So another habit that I have is I eat my portion control. So over the years of talking myself through overeating, I now know what my size of food is. And I have small plates that I get from the Costco, paper plates, sorry, Earth. And they're like the cake size plates. They're not even they're the small ones. And that's what I eat off of. I only eat one plate of food and that's plenty for me. And so that's just a habit. And my portion control now is just really like a habit. And the only time I eat like more than I should is when I go out to eat and the portion is bigger.
Right.
And so
Most
that's
restaurants
kind of
don't know what a
strange.
portion is, a true
No,
portion.
they don't. I also make it a habit to allow myself or plan things that I do love, but not everything has to be an orgasm in my mouth. Like I don't have to have the most delicious thing all the time. I just sometimes will eat food because I need some protein or because I need some carbs because I'm about to work out. And so, but I do make it a habit to make sure that because we love food and because we're in the industry, that I do have about 20% of the stuff I put in my mouth I really freaking enjoy. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, I think those are great habits. So habits, eating habits to for sure to adopt. And I'll
Mhm.
add one more to it where because I do meal prep, but even if I don't meal prep, I ingredient prep or I'll always have ingredients on hand. I actually just made a reel about that the other day because after coming back from being away and not having done meal prep, I always have things that can lead me to a meal. I always have low carb wraps. I always have some frozen like chicken strips. I always have some things that I can make something out of. So there is no excuse like, oh, there's nothing here. I can't guess I gotta order out. Like that's not the
Right.
case because I always have ingredients here that are going to lead me to something like making a healthier decision. So if you don't have the ability to meal prep, like Justy said she does the clean eats, she orders her meal prep in. And if you don't have the means to do that, then at least just have ingredients. The
Mhm.
freezer is gonna hold your
The
chicken, it's
freezer's
gonna
your
hold
best friend.
yes, it's gonna hold some that's and it's ready to eat. All I have to do is defrost it. I pull it out, and guess what? I pulled some out the other day and I was like, oh, I should have thought about this sooner. I didn't have time to defrost it. Your microwave has a defrost button on it. So
Yeah.
like you just
Yeah.
have to clear the excuses. So those are the habits that I've gotten into because the old me would have been like, I'll just order Chinese or I'll just order this
Mhm.
or go run out and grab that. I'm right. I'm literally a half a mile from a Chick-fil-A. There's a Burger King. Like I have a slew of fast food that's about a half a mile. Like I could walk to it. But I mean, if
Mhm.
I was that serious about it, I would probably drive to it. But um, instead of giving into those excuses, is just like we've built those habits of just
Mhm.
knowing we need to have certain things or have the ability to like order like you do the clean
Well, and the
meals.
same thing with working out. So, we were talking about motivation, and so it's not all about food, it's
True.
activity too. And I'm a morning girl, so I work out in the morning, usually 6:30, sometimes 7, sometimes 6, just depends. And I'm in a pretty good habit of now, but every morning still there's like that. I don't want to get up. Like, I don't want to do this. But then, same thing. I tell myself why. If you don't do this from history, you're not going to have a good day. You're not going to feel the energy. You're not going to feel the pride. You're not going to feel good about until you've worked out. And then I just get up and go. I just get up and go. And listen, I either pour some sugar on me in my car on the way to the gym, or I put Clear Blue Morning by Dolly Parton on the way to the gym, because those two songs are going to get me in a better mood. That's my habit. I put my top back, if it's not raining, the wind in my hair, Dolly Parton or Def Leppard on, and that is my jam. And so that's what I
I just
do. And
visualize the whole thing.
and so when I get to the gym, and it's literally 1.8 miles to my gym. So when I get into the gym, I already have that kind of energy about it. I put my the night before, I've been doing this, I put my outfit out, because what I would do in the morning is, because I have to have everything match. My shoes have to match, my outfit has to match my water bottle. So that takes me like 15 minutes in the morning to be like, oh, this, no, I want these shoes, or no, I want these shoes, or, oh no, I should have the sparkly water bottle, whatever. So that's what goes through my mind. So I do it the night before now. So I'm like, here's what I'm wearing tomorrow. Here's my water bottle. Here's my shoes. So I literally can get up and in 15 minutes be in my Jeep, have my Dolly Parton on, and get to the gym.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm not quite that extra. I don't have as many shoes as you or water bottles, but I will take my
Yeah.
one water bottle that I take to the gym. And I usually put either like my post workout, my post recovery electrolyte, or like well, my Gatorade Zero, and I'll mix the powder in, put it in the fridge, so that way in the morning, after, and my clothes I lay out and I put on my dresser, I'll put those clothes on, and then on my way out I'll grab my water and go. So
Mhm.
similar, but my shoes, they are what they are. I have like
But
one,
if
two,
I don't, if I don't do all that stuff, I will have the excuse. Well, I don't know what I'm going to wear. Well, I did it. Well, blah blah blah, yada yada. And so now I'm just like, no, just get up and go. Even
yeah,
if, and I tell myself this too. I'm like, even if you just walk in and just do the bare minimum, at least you're going. Then I get there and I'm like, okay, let me kill this workout. You know what I mean?
right,
Once I get there, I get that energy. So it's just
right.
that
It's
temporary
getting there.
2 minutes. Just
Yeah.
give say shit, fuck, whatever, I don't want to do this, but then just get up and go
And
and out the door.
if there's for some reason, like physically you're injured or something happened and you can't, you can go for a walk. Nobody
Yeah,
said it has to be fast. Nobody said it
right.
has to be an hour. Give yourself a 10-minute walk. Give yourself a
Mm-hmm,
lap around the block. Take your time with it, but move your body. Like if you
mm-hmm,
commit to it and that's the routine that you have, and maybe because I've done it before where I've gone really hard in like the strength development or body pump, and I'm like, I can barely walk. Well, then I'm
mm-hmm.
gonna barely walk, but I have to do something. But I'm not
Right.
gonna not do my workout because I overdid it or something like that. So yeah.
Well, even like after I had my surgery, getting back into the gym after that, I really couldn't work out, but I just
Yeah.
got up and went to the gym. I just walked because I
Yeah.
wanted to get in that habit again of going to the gym. I don't go every day, but almost every day. I usually take Tuesdays off. Um, but but yeah, so you can use the same thing with working out, with food, with things outside of weight loss, and just changing the way that you talk to yourself, and change what you allow from yourself. It's so interesting because like if Stephanie talked to me the way I talk to myself, she wouldn't be my friend. So it's kind of
Okay.
like, well, why do I allow myself to
Right.
break promises to myself all the time? Why do I allow myself to live in a body that is unhealthy? Like, I wouldn't want that for anybody else. I would support any of my friends to do anything that would make them feel better, but yeah, here I am sitting here putting all this stuff in my body. I used to smoke, I used to drink, I used to eat unhealthy. Why? Like, if I had a friend that was doing that, I'd be like, hey, you need to stop.
Right.
But we
Exactly.
didn't do that. We didn't tell ourselves that for a very long time.
A very long time, yes.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we're gonna roll into celebrating your wins. And so we have here, okay, so an definition. So to get something by effort.
Hmm.
And I gotta tell you, all of that we just talked about takes a lot of effort. So like
Yeah.
definitely we need to pat ourselves on the back for that because it doesn't come naturally. It does to an
Hmm.
obese person, none of that comes naturally. It
Hmm.
100% takes effort. Maybe not physical force effort, but it takes effort to have all those conversations, to build the routines, to flip your thought. it all takes effort. So, um, and one of the things that we have that we've put down on some paper is that there are no such thing as small wins. So that was a
Mm-mm.
huge win for Justy. I'll use an example um, to order the box of Dolly Parton, I was going to say cupcakes, donuts, and just take a sliver of each of the 4 flavors. That's a huge
Mhm.
win because
Yeah.
old Justy would not have done that. She would have put one of each flavor aside and saved
Yep.
one for each day of the week. You know, that
Yep.
maybe that's where you start. And then you build to like, well, I'll have a half of each one. We'll have a quarter of
Hmm.
each one. You've gotten yourself to a place where you had a sliver of each one. That's a huge win.
Yeah.
Um, I was in a support group last night in Barry Nation and with Laura Grabo, and she starts all of her support groups with tell me one win. And she got to me and she asked me for a win, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't think I really have any wins. Like, what are wins? And I said that to her. I was like, the funny thing is that I initially was thinking I don't have people who were talking about this. I'm like thinking I don't have a win, and forgetting about like what I just did last week. I just hiked like 8 miles in 2 days over the course of 2 days, 8 miles, um, with a 70, I don't know, 60-pound backpack on to camp out in the woods at like primitive camping. That's a huge win. Who the heck
Yeah.
hikes that far with a backpack on? So each camp, like to and from each camp total was 8 miles, but that's a lot. And when you
Yeah.
add those 60, 70 pounds, whatever, on to what I weigh now,
Hmm.
I would have never been able to do that at 250 pounds or 260 pounds or when I was over 300 pounds. So when I was doing it and when it got hard, because the one was a bit longer because we took a wrong turn and whatever. So it turned into a longer hike than we wanted it to. And in my mind, because I was like, I could have been mad about it, but in my mind, I was like, you know what? This is what it would have been like for me to hike without the pack on at like 260 pounds. That was
Yeah.
me. That weight was me.
Yeah.
And I would struggled with it then. And now I have a body that can carry myself as well as an additional 60,
Hmm.
70 pounds for me to survive for the next like day and a half. So that's a win.
Yep.
And she laughed. She was like, isn't it funny how we do that to ourselves? We think like, I
Hmm.
mean, I'm just getting by. Like, there's no wins here, but there is.
Yep. I remember when I first started working at Amelie's, and this was the first time that I was like, how important celebrating your wins are. I first started working with the bakeries, and I didn't know what this stuff tasted like. So I was eating a lot of pastries. And I just got to the point where I'm just like, I'm gonna get to the point where I can go in a bakery and leave and not eat one pastry. Now I do it every single day. Literally go into the bakery every day. I might have a macaron, I might not. If they look a little hard, I'll taste a bite and throw the rest away. And I could not have done that 2, 3 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
And so I just remember the first time I ever walked out of an Omelie's without eating something. And I literally turned around and I flipped off the building. I was like, and I did a little happy dance on my way to my car. And that feeling of accomplishment was so good that I'm like, I can do that again.
Right.
And then I can do it again. And I can do it again. And I can do it again. But
And
had
you know
I
what?
not
And
taken,
that was your dopamine hit. The
yes, that
dopamine hit wasn't
was.
having the sugar. The dopamine hit was now look at me. I
Yes,
don't need that.
I don't need it. And I feel better about it. And so that was the first time I remember, like, with my recently this my weight loss that I've done, and I've kept it off for 3 years, 4 years by now, is being able to walk out of my bakery and celebrating that. Had I not taken the second to celebrate it in my crazy Justy way, then it wouldn't have been memorable. I wouldn't have been like, oh, I can do this again. I just would have walked out and felt like I didn't have anything sweet today and felt deprived. But no,
Right.
I was like, screw you. I left you building full of sweets, and I didn't eat anything. And
Right.
so, because I'm a badass and I can fucking do this again. And so that's changing the way that you speak to yourself,
Yeah.
changing the drama around what you want to do for your life. And so now I do that. The other day I posted a video still, 3 years later, every time I tie an apron in the front when I'm in the kitchen, I feel like a success because I
Right.
used to have to tie it in the back because my ass was too big. And now I can not only tie it in the front, I can like pull it tight in the front and it feels great, you know?
Yeah.
And so just not letting go of all of that fun stuff. And like you said, even if you had I bought a 12 pack of Miss Dolly donuts and ate 3 of them instead of 6, that's a win. It's
Yeah.
not a, oh, but I ate 3. No, I didn't eat 6. Like you can just change your mind
And
and
then the
just
next
by,
time you just eat one or two
yes,
and you just keep
and
working at it.
just by changing that phrase of I had 3 donuts to, well, I didn't eat 6, it changes the feeling about that action. And so it just
Right.
makes you feel better.
Right.
And
Yep.
so that's what we have to continue to motivate ourselves. We have to be able to identify all of that, the little stuff, the little
So
joys in.
identifying what we have down here, identifying a struggle is a huge win.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean that's just in the catch it, check it, change it, just kept the catching it. So identifying it, that's a
Hmm.
win in itself. And if you can't check it and change it, that's okay because you caught it. And then if
Right.
you can catch it and then check it, then that's a win. And then the next time if you can change it, then that's a huge win. So you just
Yeah.
celebrate each one of those. Making a plan. If you're not used to making a plan and you've made a plan for the day, maybe you just made it 1 out of 7 days in the week. That's a win.
Hmm.
Next week
Yeah.
shoot for 2. It's all those
Uh-huh.
little things. Maybe you crushed that plan. The
Hmm.
one plan that you made. That's a huge win too. Um,
Hmm.
Making a plan for when you don't crush your plan.
Hmm.
Another win. Um,
And you
Forgetting
know,
be Go ahead.
it's funny because somebody the other day I was talking to somebody and I don't remember where I was honestly about weight loss, my journey, whatever, and they were asking me, you know, kind of how I did it, and I think it was in a like a little shop or something. Random chubby lady walked up to me and we started talking. But anyway, so I was, she's like, yeah, but it's so exhausting. It's so exhausting always thinking about it. It's so exhausting always talking to yourself about it. I said, yeah, but being obese was exhausting too.
Yeah, you got
What
to choose your
it's
heart.
life is exhausting.
Yeah,
Like it is exhausting. No matter what, work is exhausting, kids are exhausting. It's all exhausting. But if you got to just pick what your exhaust is, you know what I mean? I'd much rather think about planning my food, talking myself out of urges, all of this stuff instead of feeling the way that I felt when I was 300 pounds.
yeah,
Like that was exhausting.
it sure
And
is.
and this woman was probably close to that weight. And I just without like I don't obviously don't want to make anybody feel bad, but I said, I guarantee that your life is exhausting because of the weight.
Yeah,
So you got to pick, if you want to change it, then you have to now start exhausting your brain
yeah,
instead of just giving into it. And then your body is going to change. It might be exhausting in your brain, but at least your body's going to feel good. At least you're going to
right.
feel like that. And I can't even explain it. And you know how it is, and the people who have lost weight, but just that feeling of like, I don't have it anymore. I don't have it there anymore. And it's just such a light feeling that the brain
Yeah,
work, it's nothing compared to what
right.
we've done. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because even at 300 pounds, you still had to do the brain work
Yeah.
and literally carry the weight around.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Now we're just doing the brain work. And
right.
um, so yeah,
So
it was interesting.
all of those are wins though. Like all of
Yeah.
those little things are wins. So celebrating every single little win. You know, making it to the gym when you didn't think, have you had that conversation with yourself, that
Mm-hmm.
celebrate that win, like feel good about it, feel good about walking out of the bakery without having a sweet, feel good about me throwing away the majority of my fries because those waffle fries are delicious, but I had
They're
like three,
so good.
right, aren't they? But I threw
Uh-huh.
them away because I knew I didn't need all of them. I got the taste
Mm-hmm.
for them, I had a little bit and threw the rest away. I mean, that's a win. So you have to like
Mm-hmm.
remind yourself of just even those little things because that's gonna it's like you have to be your own hype man. That's gonna hype
Yeah.
you up next time.
And I would say better yet, and we've talked about this before. I mean, I'm pretty good at tooting my own horn, but some people aren't.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have people that will understand what you're going through. So having the network of people, we have a ton of people on our Instagram. There's Berry Nation out there. There's all kinds of support groups for weight loss, especially like on Instagram. And because if I say like, man, I walked out of the bakery without eating anything today, to somebody who doesn't understand my struggle, they're gonna be like, okay. But you're gonna be like, yeah, you did it. Like, good job. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have a support group out there that's gonna like hype you up. And then on the reverse side of that, you're gonna want to hold yourself accountable not only for yourself but for them. That's what you
Yeah.
and I do. We have 30 some thousand followers on our Instagram, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna gain a bunch of weight with all those people watching. You know
Right,
what I mean?
exactly. And that's
And it
exactly it. I feel like, and that's why I told people, because people are like, oh, did you tell people when you like that you had surgery? Yes.
mhm.
Yes, because I need people to be watching me to hold me
Mhm.
accountable because I clearly am not good at doing that myself.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of the wrap up of motivation. So we started with the first two episodes that we had, and then this one is the last one with, you know, um changing your thoughts and then celebrating your wins.
Right.
So
And so
if
if
you
you
didn't listen
haven't
to the
watched
first
the
two,
other two or listened
yeah,
to the other two, I highly suggest going back
yeah.
and start with the first one, and finding out where you'll find out that motivation is not a feeling at all. It's
Mhm.
just not. Um, that's the drama that we put behind it. So start with
Mhm.
that so you can kind of go through the process and then get yourself back to this one because it's going to go from not feeling motivated to taking action and celebrating your wins at the end. And that
Mhm.
whole cycle is exactly how Justy lost all of her weight and how I've been able to maintain and how I lost some weight in the beginning. Because she and I started out very similarly. She introduced me to that kind of to a podcast that led to that like lifestyle of making the small changes and whatnot. And so that's how I lost some in the beginning, and definitely how I've maintained afterwards. So
Mhm.
um, I think you want to follow all 3 episodes if you haven't.
Yes. And so we always talk about, well, we've been this year talking about something like self-love that we've been doing. So I I don't know what I've done
I suck
actually.
at that, by the way. I can't even tell you. What have I done?
Well, I just live a life that's very self-indulgent. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, I mean, I get my nails done, I get facials, I do all this stuff for myself. But I think the big thing for me with self-love lately is I have been dating. And as we spoke earlier about one of my incidences, I'm really getting really good at putting boundaries around what I will accept and what I won't accept. And that is self-love to me. I mean, I'm loving myself enough to walk away from somebody who's, obviously lied for no reason is, that's loving myself. And um, so I guess that would be one of them. Besides all the other stuff I do to take care of myself. So,
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I'm bad at this too. And I think one of the things is we've talked about how you and I are very much stuck in this like our bodies are just mine is loving like 180 to
mhm,
185 and where I really want to be 165 is where I was and want to be, and your body is loving like the 190ish to
mhm,
195 no matter what we do. And so I've been very like, and I think you may be along the same lines of this, and I don't know if this is self-love or whatever the case, but I swore off like I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking any alcohol because I'm trying
mhm,
really hard to lose this weight. But then I felt like I was like missing out on like not that I'm a huge drinker, but I was missing out on having that one or two because I thought that that one or two was what was keeping me from like losing weight. Well, guess what? Now I allow myself to have like one or two drinks like every once in a while, and my weight's still the same.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like I've
yeah.
been depriving myself because I thought that these liquid calories have to be the reason. And it's not. My body just likes it here. It likes it here whether I have those two drinks. It likes it here if I don't. So it's like
Yeah.
I just had to stop like no, I'm good. I'll just have this water. We're like, you know what? Steph, just have 2 drinks. Like, you're fine. It's okay.
Right. Right. It's not the end of the world. And that's funny because that leads us into what we're our next podcast is going to be about. And that's kind of like our struggle with like body image and kind of the scale, I think.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to do it together as one or split it into two, but definitely I had a misconception that when I mean, I remember when I was, you know, a size 24, I was like, oh my God, if I could just be a size 14, I would like die. Well, I'm a size 10 now, and I still find things wrong with my body.
Right.
And I still am self-conscious about my back fat and my legs hanging, saggy skin. And, you know, it's kind of like I want to conquer my legs before I have my leg surgery. I want to wear shorts. I wore a bikini the other day, 2-piece
Yeah.
at the pool. I've never
Yeah.
worn a 2-piece in my entire adult life. And I did. And you know what? Nobody fucking cared.
Right.
So it's like, you know, so I'm trying this summer to wear shorts and all of that before I have my surgery. So just those body image and what we think about our body and what we think about the scale, I think is what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that's it then. We did it.
Yeah.
Go
Yay.
team.
Go team. Go us. Back at it. So
Yeah, for sure.
we're gonna jump into another one about talking about the scale and body image. So stay tuned.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.